Hello, this is Krystal, and thank you for joining me for this week's First Chapter Friday. Today I will be reading from the beginning of Laurie Gilmore's The Pumpkin Spice Cafe. Chapter 1. Jeannie Ellis had never killed a man before, but tonight might be the night. Desperate times and all. She clutched the baseball bat tighter in her fist and crept down the rickety back staircase. She hadn't slept in 3 nights. Not since moving into the apartment above her aunt's cafe. Well, her cafe, technically. Jeannie was officially the new owner of the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, her Aunt Dot's pride and joy, until exactly 2 weeks ago, when the older woman announced she was retiring and taking off for the Caribbean for a few weeks to work on her tan. Apparently, Dot could think of no one better to take over her beloved cafe than her favorite, and only, as Jeannie pointed out, niece. An idea that now seemed completely absurd, as Jeannie tiptoed off the last step, prepared for battle. Every night, she'd heard strange noises, scritchy, scratchy type noises, with the occasional clangy, bangy type noise. At first, she tried to chalk it up to the wind, or maybe an animal scurrying through the back alley. She absolutely refused to let her mind take off down a path to the worst case scenario, like she usually did. She would not allow herself to imagine an escaped serial killer creeping up her back steps. That banging was definitely not an armed robber, here to take the meager change her aunt kept in the cash register. Jeannie was starting fresh. Jeannie was a new woman. The quaint seaside town of Dream Harbor and its inhabitants knew nothing about her, and she planned to take full advantage of that. A shuffling noise at the back door caught her attention. She would take full advantage of her new life, new Jeannie. Plan as soon as she figured out what was keeping her up at night. No one could live a laid-back, quaint, small-town life with a murderer outside the back door. That was just logical. She choked up on the bat and crossed the small hallway between the stairs and the door that led to the alley behind the cafe, although alley wasn't quite the right word for it. Alley conjured images of overflowing trash cans and scurrying rats. But Jeannie wasn't in Boston anymore. She was in Dream Harbor, which she was convinced someone must have actually dreamed up. It was far too idyllic to have sprung up naturally. No. The space behind the cafe and the other businesses on Main Street was more like its own little side street, with room for delivery trucks and tidy trash bins. She'd even seen some of the other shop owners taking breaks and chit-chatting back there during the day. Not that she'd talked to anyone yet. She wasn't quite ready for that, for being the new kid. Jeannie shook her head. Her thoughts were way off track, and she was about to be potentially murdered. Allie or not, whatever was out there was keeping her awake. And after 3 nights without sleep, she was barely holding it together. She rested the bat on her shoulder and reached for the doorknob. It was nearly dawn, and a weak gray light seeped through the window over the door. Oh, good, Jeannie thought vaguely. At least I'll be able to see my attacker before I die. With that less than pleasant thought in her head, not at all the positive new persona she was shooting for, she yanked open the door. And if you would like to know what happens next, you can check this title out on the Libby app. Please join me here next week as I read from the beginning of Death by Pumpkin Spice by Alex Erickson. Thank you and have a great week.